Welcome back to Apocalypse and Genesis. A family emergency has popped up, so I'll try to keep this short. Basically, I wanted to say there are lots of reasons our religions are so mysterious. The problem is that the time of Earth changes is hugely serious and leaves a few questions on the table, like how are some religions monotheistic and others dualist, and why is there so much conflicting imagery, like multiple trees in the Genesis or the Trinity or a Son of Man hoisted upon a cross, all eventually makes sense when we see it with the serious matter of having seen it. Remember the verse, Thou canst not see my face, for there shall no man see me and live. Exodus 33. I look at the Star of David as a cipher for the Aries triangle and the Virgo diamond, and slowly they rotate around the entire zodiac. Just remember that in this sense, they represent the vernal and autumn equinoxes as those travel across the signs. Last time we had an equinoxes or a conflagration, the equinox was pointed to the border of Gemini with Taurus, and Orion was batting the sun to a different location, which isn't exactly true. What the ancients were attempting to explain is that Earth changes its polar orientation as at Serpent Mound, Ohio. We can go from being pointed at Polaris to be pointing at Vega or Crux as soon as Planet X gets close enough. The large stone looking like a boot print is magnetic. I think they used it for a medicine stone. But there you can see when the tree of life stands up with Leo at the bottom of the zodiac. And remember, the idea is that the tree of life falls from time to time, and that's when God rests. The secret of the precession is that it can be measured with Jupiter and Saturn, great conjunctions, swinging back to more or less the same place every 60 years. And together they mark out thirds of the zodiac every 20 years or so. So their trilateral passage makes what was known as the trigon. And that 60 years became a sacred measure of time. So you will find multiples of 60 years, for example, when you examine the Sumerian kings list, some of which was appropriated by the Hebrews. Elsewhere, we talked about how on May 6th we went past the final great sign according to Jesus. What was a dove or whale to one people was a boat of the sun for others. On May 23rd, we went past the last great sign of the Sumerians. Supposedly what ensued was 7 years of famine. If you look at the Deagle 2025 country projections, you will see the results. And it all looks bad for the West, to the tune of hundreds of millions of casualties. Only the UK gets it worse than the United States. Here I took some of the stones from Ojuelos de Jalisco seriously. It suggests that in the time you can wave your hand, the horizon was pointed at an Orion solar eclipse at the vernal equinox, and the next it was pointed to the demise of Lady Pisces. And it turns out the very same moment was significant to the Babylonians and their god Marduk, their name for the Aries dragon. For some, he was the one most high god, and for others, he was the red star, son of God, coming from the south, while for others, he also represented the blue planet at the opposite end of the Nibiru system, coming to change the poles. Anyway, the Ojuelan stone pointed to a very specific date, and I figured if I could find it, maybe we could tell something about what is due to recur. The Aztec stone at the bottom indicates that Sirius lit up, possibly the significance of Jesus' crucifixion story with the nails. And Orion was the warning for the sign. If that is still the case, the Orion vernal equinox of 6,500 years ago has now turned into a summer solstice. On the lower right, you see a shepherd holding a staff with two dogs. And I suspect that was the same Orion event that we've been talking about. The demise of Lady Pisces can also be found at the rump of Pegasus, where I expect to see Nibiru or Planet X probably around the autumn equinox of this or next year. Depends on if you think it's time or if we've got to wait until a Saturn opposition. Here you can see the Hongshan Chinese knew that the sky fell at Orion. And if that's the date of the Aries dragon, then we don't have to wait a year for the pole shifts to begin. Stones from Ojuelos show that Nibiru and Planet X will trade places over the next few years as they rotate around the planet. So look at the shape called the Triskel and how it shows up in threes in petroglyphs around the world, usually making 3.5 turns. On the last fast pole shift, quite apart from the one that took place over 6,500 years ago, Leo leapt on Taurus. And next time, Aquila will jump Aquarius. And Pisces is supposed to go below the horizon, taking the place of Taurus, who has replaced Leo, and so on and so on. Every time I see poor Koyoshalki, the sister of brother Huitzilopochtli, or the Pietà of Michelangelo, I remember Isaiah 53. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. What I'm saying is that Jesus was living the example of a cosmic mystery. So was John the Baptist, for that matter. John was playing the heron or kingfisher or raven, while Jesus was playing the part of Nibiru Marduk, the phoenix and son of God. You see, the two objects trade places. So when you hear about the cornerstone rejected, think of the Virgo diamond, where the birth of an avatar is due. Remember when Jesus called Peter his devil? Well, there is plenty of controversy over whether Orion was the key to the mysteries. Some, like the novelist David Gemmell, said that was the secret name of Jehovah. Placed the statue of the charioteer there because I believe the story of Phaeton and Helios is the same as Nibiru and the sun. According to Diodorus Siculus, the time of Helios, the sun god, was 23,000 years before Alexander the Great crossed into Asia. Personally, I think he was centuries off the mark, like the rabbis with their creation account. At least that is what the stars seem to suggest. There's a Native American tale about the time a raven ate the sun. Well, look at this October's total solar eclipse and tell me if that story might be appropriate. The rebirth of the sun supposedly had to do with the day of a double eclipse, which was remembered by Abraham's ancestors at Haran in the Sogmatar Harabesi. The goddess stone on the right is Taino from the Caribbean. It is similar to the Pachamama idol consecrated recently by the Pope to the consternation of his flock. Well, it wasn't sacrilege. It's another poor attempt to illustrate the mysteries of what is coming. If Chronos Saturn is the famous timekeeper, then his opposition to the partial eclipse in the fall of next year is when we will see the southern star rising over the north. I am sure that this is what all the fuss was over on Noah's Ark. And the days to the dove and the raven were all about a passage of the sun between two constellations. On the goddess wearing devil's horns, notice the first of Aries at her womb. In other words, the relationship between Virgo and the first of Aries across the sky in the Zodiac. On the little stone in the middle with Orion and Aquarius dancing, Aquarius is the hay and Orion the one she is dancing with. I have a Neonyosi stone from Burkina Faso, the length of an arm, suggesting Orion can be the male known as the rabbit god or the donkey god when the sky turns over. And remember the story of Seth and Orion? One could make the argument, see Manetho, that Hebrew religion was the reform of Assyrian religion when their god had died in a pole shift. The story of God dying was remembered by the Maya and told to Cortez that their god had gone to the underworld during an eclipse. So, I can't tell you precisely when, no man knows the day or the hour. What I can tell you is that we're in the time of troubles. Shem will bless you and keep you now and forever. Take care.